right. Hey, folks. Russell wanted to give you a quick update on where we are with our church gathering and just some ideas about what our first week's going to look like. And so this Sunday, we're planning on meeting, and I believe the best time to meet would be at 11 o'clock and maybe have a 45-minute service or maybe even an hour-long service. So some things to think about as we begin to meet. A passage of scripture that's come to mind is Mark 12, verses 30 and 31. Jesus is asking folks, somebody asked him, what was the greatest commandment? And he said, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and all your strength. And then he said the second greatest commandment was to love your neighbor as yourself. He said, no commandment are greater than these. So as I think about that and our idea of meeting together, we're going to come together with all kinds of different ideas about what's going on in the past weeks and months, actually. So there are going to be some people who are very nervous to get together. There are going to be some who will not come at all, and that's okay. And there'll be those of you that wish we would have been meeting this whole time, and probably a lot in between. So what I'd like to recommend is that as we gather, just keep that in mind. Even though you think that it's not been a big deal, there might be somebody who's still very, very concerned about it. So as we get together and meet, I just want to encourage you to think about that as we interact. So some rules that we have to abide by. Social distancing. We still have to keep the 6-foot distance while we meet. That's required, and it's not a suggestion, it is a mandate. And I think that's okay. We can submit and do that. So as we get together to meet, keep your 6-foot distance. So for some of you, that's going to be tough. You're not used to that. So if you think about it, if you put out your arm and they put out their arm, that's probably about 6 foot, maybe a little bit more. So if somebody comes up and you're too close and they put their arm out, and you need to back up until your arm is not touching theirs. So just some thoughts about that. So be careful. Little babies. We're going to maybe have some babies in the audience. We can't be touching them, can't be picking them up. Just don't put mom and dads into that awkward position of asking you not to do that. Also, when it comes down to just being together, we're going to have to sit 6 feet apart. So when you come in on Sunday, I'll have all the chairs set up where they are spread apart. I'll think about family units. Maybe there'll be 2 or 3 chairs in one spot, a couple of chairs by themselves, maybe a single chair if you're a single person. And if you'll just pick out a chair that fits your family and sit in those, we may be spread way apart, and that's going to be okay. So just, once again, some changes there. We will not do coffee, but bring your own coffee. I have no problems with people bringing their own coffee and enjoying that together. That's the one thing you know that I enjoy is getting together for coffee, but bring your own coffee, and we won't have any food or coffee until we figure out what these social distancing guidelines have changed or updated. But as of right now, it's just not the best idea. I'll serve communion through wearing a mask and gloves. I'll prepare it rather. And what we're going to do is probably have individual servings of grape juice, and they'll be pre-boxed, so like a drink box or just a little Welch's grape juice in a plastic bottle. And I'll set one of those at every family station, if you want to call it that. So whether it's a table or a set of chairs, you'll have access to that. You can open it yourself, and I'll walk around with that with gloves on, so ahead of services, so that you know it's not been touched by anybody else. And then the bread, we will have the bread on a plate that'll be covered, and I'll have prepared that with gloves on out of a commercially packed box. And so we'll set those at all the different family stations as well. So we're not going to pass any trays. Collection will be taken up, but it'll be a tray near the entrance of the building, and you just put your collection in that, and that way that tray is not being passed around. So we're going to be abiding by all the rules that we can, to be smart, to be careful, to show love to our neighbor. If you're in those protected categories, maybe it's not best for you to come at this point. We will live stream our service, so you'll still be able to participate in parts of the service. And so it's going to be different for a while. We'll probably do an abbreviated service, 11 to maybe 11:50, 11:45. I'll just have a short message. I'm not trying to preach a big long sermon. It'll be an encouraging message and focused on Christ and communion together. It'll be a little different than in the past, but that's okay. So those are some things to think about. No handshakes. Just best to keep your hands in your pockets maybe when you're talking, because it's so hard not to want to hug or shake hands, but we can't do that. Sometimes I'll carry an ink pen, and if I'm sick, I'll carry that in my hand so people, when they reach down to shake, they'll see that I've got something in my hands, and they won't shake my hand when I'm not feeling well. So whatever you got to do, just be careful and don't make people uncomfortable by trying to do some of those things that we shouldn't do at this point. If somebody asks you to step back a little bit, if you're just encroaching on their space and you don't notice it, don't be offended. This is okay. We're all going to be at different places, but just keep your distance and smile and be happy that you're able to get that close and spend some time together. The building looks a little different. The blue awning is off of the front of the building, if you haven't noticed that. The landlord decided that was a good idea, and it looks really nice. So kind of excited about it. The building will be cleaned well beforehand. All high touch areas we wipe down with Clorox, and then after the building is emptied, probably I'll wait 3 or 4 hours just to let anything settle out, and then I will wipe down everything again. We have to submit a plan of how we're going to clean to the health department. I have submitted that, expect that to be back anytime in the next day or two. And then we will abide by that. We'll wipe everything down, just being very careful. So that's just some of the things we need to be thinking about. If you're not wanting to be at the service because of this, that's okay. Stay home. We want you to be healthy. At some point, I'm sure we're going to have a case in Fergus County. Just a matter of time, whether it's now or 6 months from now or 9 months from now. So we just want to be smart and be mindful. And I think it is fairly safe right now to get out and visit if we follow these rules. If you don't think that, or if you're in one of those protected categories, it's okay to stay home. We're going to understand that. We still love you, and we'll get together. This isn't going to last forever, and we'll get to spend some time together. If you want to reach out with questions or comments, feel free to do so. I recorded this ahead of time just so that we could discuss it, and it's easier than sending a big long document, and I thought I would just do it in a more personal way. So that's the plan. Meeting Sunday, whatever that is, May 3rd, I think. We'll meet for a short 1 hour gathering, and then kind of figure out what that looks like going forward. Probably no Wednesday nights for the time being, since that's usually a more intimate setting, and we usually have food, and so I think we'll hold off on that for a week or two and just kind of see how things go, and then maybe can get back to a full schedule here before long. We want to be together. We know that. People all over the world are struggling with the same thing, but this is a good time maybe to think about patience. You know, we're exercising that fruit of the Spirit that many of us don't like. We're submitting to each other, we're submitting to our neighbor, and we're exercising some patience, whether we want to or not. But I think maybe we can grow from that. So that's my thoughts, and I'm going to look over here to see if I have any other concerns. And I think I've touched on all of them at this point. If there's something I missed, put it in the comments, and we'll try to make sure everybody's informed. God bless, and we hope to see you Sunday if you feel like getting out. And if not, we will see you next time we see you. Thank you.